Hello, BookTube. Hello, BookTube. Welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Juan. I am just one reader, your favorite ever Mexican booktuber who reads in English. Of course I am. You bet your ass. I am here very calmly, very peacefully. With my October wrap-up. So I'm going to be telling you about all 4 books that I finished in the month of October. October was a packed month for me. It's my birthday month, so I celebrated my birthday. I had a lot of, events and dinners and lunches and theater and movies and Six Flags, a lot of things that I do every October to celebrate my birthday. But it was also Halloween, and it was also a month in which I got sick. I was sick for like 24 days of effing October. So that's why I wasn't able to read as much as I would have wanted to, as I would have liked to, but here I am. Okay, I'm not dead, so that is pretty good in and of itself. So here are the books that I read in October. So first up we have Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss. This is about how the food giants hooked us. That's actually the subtitle of the book. This is a great book. This was so thrilling. This is about the big corporations that process all of these foods that we consume and that we can easily purchase, just on a daily basis everywhere. Like this book is the stuff of nightmares because it's actual real life, realistic horror. This is more a science book and a documentary thriller nonfiction kind of book than a diet book. This is actually not a diet book. The title is kind of misleading, I guess, Salt, Sugar, Fat, even though it is about salt, sugar, fat, like the key ingredients that the big corporations alter and change up and modify in order to fabricate, like artificially fabricate the food that is poisoning us and getting us addicted and basically killing us, but also making us, be recurring customers and purchase these foods. Now, don't get me wrong, I love me some diet books. I love diet books, like The Glucose Goddess. What's the title of her book? The Glucose Revolution. I love that book. I love that kind of thing. I've been pretty much into diet culture myself. I guess, I am a victim of diet wellness culture myself, but I do love reading about those things. I am sort of ambivalent towards carbohydrates and sugars and all those things, so I'm biased when it comes to these kinds of books because I do love reading about dieting and those kinds of things. However, this is not that kind of book. This is more nonfiction, science. You get to see the corporate side of the business side of things, which is so scary. Like, people are actively trying to hook your brain and get it addicted. And the book explores that from a scientific point of view, a business point of view, a political point of view. Like, it's unbelievable and it's true. So it reads like true crime, I guess. I really enjoyed it. It was so thrilling. I couldn't put it down, and it deserves 4 stars. So it gets 4 stars from me. The next book that I completed was The Diary of a Nobody by George and Whedon Grossmith. This is a beautiful Penguin Classics edition that I actually purchased. Where was it? I think it was Harrods. No, not Harrods. Hatchards in London, that great bookstore in Piccadilly. And it's a beautiful edition. I love the end papers here. So this was written in like the late 1800s. So it's a classic. And it's essentially the diary of just a random dude, Sir, Mr., living in London back in the day. It's wonderful. I mean, what's not to like? It feels very pedestrian and very mundane and very ordinary, but that's exactly what it's supposed to be. So it's the diary of a nobody, but I love reading these kinds of things because I am a psychoanalyst. So this is what I do for a living. I listen to people tell me about, the goings on in their lives, and sometimes you could think that that they have ordinary lives, ordinary thoughts, ordinary relationships with ordinary people, but in that ordinariness you get to see the singularity and therefore the special qualities. And I love reading about that, what makes a nobody somebody. I also really like the writing, even though it's very commonplace. It's very, very, very funny. It's not like laugh out loud funny like P.G. Wodehouse, for example. That's like my reference for real humor, or like A Confederacy of Dunces, which is my favorite comedy book. This is not that kind of funny, but it is just delightful, and it puts a smile on your face. And yeah, I just loved getting immersed into this ordinary man's life and getting to see just it's a character study. And yeah, he's a very likable, grumpy, kind of anal, retentive man, and I just really, really love this kind of personality-based humor. So I am giving this book 4 stars. Then I read Flames by Robbie Arnott. This is a really different book. It's really unique, and I really commend books for being unique. So this certainly gets recognition for that. That being said, it's not exactly my cup of tea, although there are some elements in here that I absolutely loved. This book is essentially a novel. It's a magical realism novel for sure, sort of like fabulist fiction, set in somewhere in Australia. It feels very, very foreign and extravagant and outlandish. It's sometimes even read like fantasy to me, just because of that kind of otherworldliness that is very much at the core of the book, because this book is really about nature. It was hard to read for me because, English is not my first language. It's my second language. So it's not like I know all the words, and this book has some really difficult for me vocabulary because it's very specific to its nature kind of vocabulary. So there are many words in here that I was struggling to understand. So it was hard to read in that regard. But again, that kind of foreign vocabulary added to the otherworldliness and the sort of extravagance of the book. So I ended up appreciating and liking that aspect of the writing. The book is about a family, and the women in the family in particular have this weird habit of coming back to life once they are cremated and their ashes scattered to the wind or whatever. And they come back, and that's really the most basic premise that I could give you. The book follows different characters. Oh, my light went off. Anyway, I'm just gonna continue like this. So the book follows some characters within the family, but then also around the family. I'm not gonna go into spoilers, but it's essentially about that, and it's about grief and about the family. It's about nature. It really, really, really focuses on the nature natural descriptions of the landscape and stuff. So if you're into that, you will like this book. I liked the book. There were sections in here that I found absolutely hilarious and ludicrously funny, like laugh out loud funny. There were some sections of the book, however, that I found very hard to digest in terms of their nature writing. The ending of the book was a little muddy for me, like muddled and not all that satisfying, but it's a book that I enjoyed, and it is a book that I would recommend if you're looking for a quick read, because this is not even 250 pages long, so it's a pretty easy read in terms of the length. And also, I really liked this book because each chapter is written from a different point of view, but also in a different format. Some chapters are written like a diary, so like diary entries. Some are just more in first person or a third person or whatever. So it's an interesting novel in terms of the form and the formatting. So I am giving Flames 3.5 stars. And finally, the last book that I completed in October was A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. Let me tell you, this book and we have some history. I actually received this copy, which is in Spanish. It's a bind-up Spanish copy of the first two Earthsea novels. I got this copy sort of as a Christmas present, I think it was, from my father when I was 12 or 13 or something like that. It's been over 20 years since I received this copy, and I never read it. I never was interested. Well, I guess I was interested. Otherwise, I wouldn't have kept this copy. But yeah, I never thought I would actually read these books. So anyway, for some reason, I was like, it's been over 20 years since I've seen this book on my shelf. Maybe I should finally at least try the first one. And so I did, and I am very glad that I did. I read the first book, which is A Wizard of Earthsea, and I really liked it. It's not exactly my favorite thing in the world. It's maybe it's a little different to what you read nowadays. Like modern fantasy. This is very different. This is more in the lines of Tolkien, and it actually reads a lot like the Silmarillion. It has that kind of epic. It reads like a historical document telling an epic, more than a regular narrative. So it's that kind of novel. The writing is very focused on the telling of the story. So it's much more focused on the prose than it is on action or even dialogue. Dialogue is very, very sparse in this novel. It's more about this kind of grand retelling. It's like someone is retelling this story, like a story being told to you by the fire, and you're just there listening. It has that kind of vibe. If you like that, you are welcome to try it out. If you don't like that thing, then please stay away, because you will not like this book. I liked it. I liked the writing. This is a Spanish translation, obviously, so I couldn't really tell you about the English original version of the book, but even in Spanish, I can appreciate just how beautiful the writing is and how it must be even more beautiful in English. So that's that. I really liked that you can see the influence of Tolkien in this book, but also you can see this book's influence on other more modern, recent texts. Like, for example, Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind is clearly based on A Wizard of Earthsea. Like, it's basically a ripoff. I think A Wizard of Earthsea is more elegant. But yeah, I really liked that this book's magic really centers on naming and language and finding the right words and the right names for things and people and whatever. I like that very much, particularly being a psychoanalyst. That's what I do. I try to use language and connect it to memories, feelings, thoughts, and even body, the body itself. I try to use language because that's what really heals people. That's why psychoanalysis is the best tool that we have in terms of mental health nowadays, much more than any other therapeutic cognitive behavioral tool. Using language is what really heals humans. That's what I believe, and that's what I do for a living. So I really loved that this book made me think of the importance of what I do and the importance of language. So I am giving A Wizard of Earthsea 4 stars. It was very charming. It was very quirky, but also very elegant, and I liked that. It's 200 pages in this edition, so it's very, very short. It's easy to read. It's accessible. It's not hard to read by any means, but it has this kind of calm feeling to it, music to it in the writing, but also this kind of epicness. It's a little like reading the Bible. It has that kind of epic scope as well, in really small sentences that pack a lot. So those are the books that I read in October. Let me know what you think and what are the books that you read in October. Please recommend something to me. I am just one reader, and I will see you in